It's another episode of Locked On Grizzlies, and this time around, we are going to be taking a look at the division, the Southwest Division, that is. Who is Memphis better than out in the Southwest? Who is better than the Grizzlies? And we'll close out this edition of the show taking a look at the creepy, googly eye Ja Morant new Nike commercial. All that and more on this edition of Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. It is I, Joe Mullinax, one of your hosts, and it's always a good day when I'm able to say that, especially in these dog days of the offseason, because that means I get a chance to hang out with my wonderful partner, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal in Memphis, Tennessee, Damichael Cole. But I know this week it's a special week in Memphis every year. One of your favorite weeks every year, partner, because you're not just an NBA beat writer.
Don't make me do this. Don't you make me do this.
You're not just an NBA beat writer this week. You are also a golf writer, if I am not mistaken.
Woo! So excited to be on the green. Is nothing like it.
There you go. Well, you can rock your bird dogs.
Catch me on one. Yeah. I mean, we're not with them anymore. But,
we can't. Oh, sorry.
You can catch me somewhere on the course. I'll be there though. I'll be there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Taking any action. So yeah, we'll see what happens over the last few years. It's been some pretty. I don't remember last year, but I know the year before that was a pretty dramatic finish. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. FedEx St. Jude Championship. If you're out there, say hello. Say hello.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit up Damichael. Tell him how wonderful he is, because it's true, and tell him how much better the show would be if it was just him and not me and Don, which is also true.
I don't like that comment.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts as proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, YouTube. Literally anywhere you get a podcast, you can get Locked On Grizzlies. Damichael and I hope that you are an everydayer at this point. If you're not, if today's your first time through, hello, how are you? Thanks for stopping by the little corner of the internet that we like to call Locked On Grizzlies. We're going into year 4, Damichael, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, shout out to you, Joe.
Yeah, 3 years with Locked On Grizzlies. I tell you what, after SB Nation kicked off Grizzly Bear Blues, it'll always be GBB to me, darn it.
Joe, one day I'm going to go back and listen to that interview you did when I first got the job and you were at the podcast, just see how far our chemistry has come, since.
Oh, it's come a long way.
It's been a long way.
Yeah, but it's been a journey, to say the least. And, I'm very grateful to Nick and David and obviously to Michael. Everybody here at Locked On. 3 years has flown by. That's a fact. And, excited for year 4, excited to be working with Damichael, and excited to be with you on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies, as always. And we're going to lock in here, partner, on the Southwest Division at large. Obviously, divisions aren't that important anymore, right? But you can still win a divisional title. It was important to the Grizzlies a couple of years ago when they did actually win the divisional title, because it was the first time they had ever done it. So I do think it's a nice, tidy way to check in on teams that the Grizzlies are going to see more than they're going to see anybody else, right? They're going to see the Houston Rockets, they're going to see the San Antonio Spurs, they're going to see the New Orleans Pelicans, and they're going to see the Dallas Mavericks more than they see anybody else on the NBA schedule because of that divisional matchup or those divisional matchups. And I thought it would be fun to structure it in a way, partner, where we would talk about we would basically rank the Southwest Division. And I think that you and I are going to be pretty different in the middle. I'm fairly confident we're going to be similar at the top and we're going to be similar at the bottom. So we're going to start at number 1. And this is Locked On Grizzlies, but we are not a homer podcast. It would be asinine to say that any team other than the Houston Rockets is the number 1 team in the Southwest Division. To replace Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green with Kevin freaking Durant.
Yep.
And to trot that team out with the defensive weapons that Houston has. Maybe you're really high on Victor Wembanyama, partner, but I'm fairly confident most folks going into the season have OKC 1, Houston 2, which ipso facto means Houston's the number 1 team out in the Southwest.
Yeah, definitely. That's where I am right now. Houston's number 1 in the Southwest. Did a really good job of, like you said, turning Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green into Kevin Durant. I like what they did getting Dorian Finney-Smith too. Like they have a lot of optionality with their starting lineup, which is something I factor in. And as we talk about these rankings, and shout out to the everydayers. If you've been an everydayer, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that, I think I could say this for you too, Joe, but I'll speak for myself solely, and Joe can chime in when he wants. But I weigh the regular season and the playoffs on different scales. And trust me, if you've been following the Grizzlies, you understand that sentiment as well, with this team being a number 2 seed in the regular season in recent years, twice, 2022, 2023, and they go into both of those playoffs and they lose to teams who were, lower seeds or whatever the case may be. The Warriors, that was a championship type team, and eventually I think won a championship that season. But in the case of the Lakers, that was a first round series. Sure, there were injuries and whatnot, but 2 times basically where the Grizzlies were the higher seed and didn't advance further in the playoffs. So you learn to kind of take the regular season for what it's worth. And what I've said on this show time and time again is the regular season, depth wins in the regular season. Depth doesn't win in the playoffs. You got 6 or 7 good guys in the playoffs, you're ready to roll. You're playing 10 guys in the playoffs, you're probably going to get hollered at, screamed at, because the other team's going to be playing Anthony Edwards, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, 40 minutes. So depth is a non-factor. I won't say it's a complete non-factor, because, you have situations like Tyrese Halliburton and those type guys getting hurt, and it's good to have an Andrew Nembhard or, those type of players to step in. But at the same time, depth is not as big of a factor in the playoffs as it is in the regular season. So when we're talking about regular season, when we're going to be talking about weighing this, you'll start to notice that for me, the way that I weigh the regular season and the playoffs, a little bit different. But getting back to your original point, Joe, Houston, number 1, in particular, because they have the 2 things combined. They have the top end talent with the Fred VanVleet, Kevin Durant, Alperen Sengun. But they also have the depth. Amen Thompson as well. I don't want to leave him out. There are so many other names you can say, but they also have the depth as well. If a Fred VanVleet goes down, for a little while, you got to read Shepherd, who's I think could take a nice type of jump here really soon. You got the Dorian Finney-Smiths of the world who can step in and be that ace defender if Amen Thompson is struggling or whatever the case may be. You got the Jabari Smiths of the world who's capable of being a top level scorer as well. They got a lot of talent over there.
Really impressive team, Houston. I think where we might diverge a little bit, partner, is at number 2. And I am curious who your second best team in the Southwest Division is.
Well, if we're talking regular season, because that's where we're talking right now, because this is where I get into that whole point I just made where things shift. Based on how I expect the regular season to go, I got the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies is number 2. In the Southwest Division at this point in time. But in the playoffs, the Grizzlies would not be the number 2 team in the Southwest Division in my mind.
Not so fast, my friend.
There he is.
Shout out to Lee Corso, who's retiring from College Game Day here in a few weeks. I have the San Antonio Spurs as the number 2 team in the Southwest Division, which means the Memphis Grizzlies are not in the top 2.
Oh, you're buying this hype, huh?
I am all about Victor Wembanyama. Here's a guy who is 7'5", who is probably going to be the defensive player of the year each of the next 10 seasons, as long as he is healthy. Yeah. Right. And again, he obviously wasn't healthy this past year. It was I think a blood clot issue, if I'm correct. Yeah. So again, it's important to point out it's not like he has bad knees or something like that. Yeah. It was something that he should be fully healed from, and he'll be ready to go. I think that you have a defensive monster there, and you have the offensive capacity that goes along with it. Again, he's a 7'5" guy that shoots probably more 3-pointers.
Let me know when I can chime in here too, because
sure, I will. I think you got De'Aaron Fox there in San Antonio. He just signed a max contract, if I remember correctly, a contract extension. So Fox is going to be there for a while. They have top end talent that is young, right? Don't forget Stephon Castle. Harper, I believe, that they drafted in the draft this past year. So they have a phenomenal core. And they're young. And I do think that that's an important thing to point out. But the Grizzlies were young 3 years ago, and they were the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. So I'm buying the San Antonio Spurs hype, and I think they are better than the Grizzlies as presently constructed.
I like what they could be. But, Joe, what have we seen that have shown us that even when they got De'Aaron Fox, there wasn't anything that we saw. It was like, oh man, that team, like with the Rockets, When you go to the Rockets the year before and you watch the way that they closed that season, everybody was like, oh, just wait till next year. And they took that step. They took that leap. But with San Antonio, it's all projection, right? Even last season, like, we didn't even get to really get into it, but Victor Wembanyama was this huge favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. This isn't me hating. I'm, go check what I've said on Wemby. I've been big on Wemby since he was in France. But he was this huge Defensive Player of the Year favorite. Did you watch the Grizzlies play against that defense? Did you watch the NBA play against that defense? They weren't a top 10 defense in the league. But, he gets 3 steals, he gets 4 blocks, and he has these fancy stats. To me, the Defensive Player of the Year is anchoring a top 5, top 10 unit. That's usually where we, that's the baseline. Like, even if Marc Gasol, he wasn't averaging 15 steals and 10 blocks and all these crazy gadget numbers like, Wembanyama. But guess what? Marc Gasol was anchoring at the time what was one of the best defensive teams, of that time. So with all that being said, like, I'm looking at the Spurs. They don't strike me as the most physical team. They're young. Like, I like these young players. I like Stephon Castle, but guess what? You go look at Stephon Castle's advanced numbers, you're going to see a whole lot of inefficiency. And I'm just not that bought into it. Dylan Harper, love him as a prospect. He was really a large part of the year. I had him number 1. But guess what? He's a rookie. We just saw how that played out with the Grizzlies. And then you go on and down the list, you got Devin Vassell. That's a player they had on the trading block recently. Like, he's some inconsistencies there. Harrison Barnes, we've seen that story. There was a reason they didn't run it back with him in 2016 with the Golden State Warriors, and they went and got Kevin Durant, whatever the case may be. So, but look, I'm not hating. It's a talented team, but the Grizzlies put it on them last season a decent amount. And I do think De'Aaron Fox being there will help that case or whatever, but I'm not just jumping on. It's not like De'Aaron Fox has just taken a bunch of teams in the past and elevated them to huge winners. Like it took Domantas Sabonis coming there and probably being 1A, 1B, however you're looking at it, for that team to get to the next step.
De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama barely played together last season. There was not a ton of overlap between those two guys. I think that it's hard. Again, in fairness, you said it's about the potential, and I am basing a lot of it off of that. But they are long, they are athletic. All of the things that you have said in the past that the Grizzlies are going to have issues with in terms of long,
not physical.
I think
who's physical on the Spurs?
Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper.
He's a baby. They're both babies.
Jalen Wells.
You might as well say Cedric. You might as well say Cedric Coward's going to be physical. Or Jalen Wells. I mean,
Jalen Wells is absolutely. He's the best point of attack defender on the team. They absolutely are expecting him to be physical. So let Damichael and I know. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know on X at Damichael C at Joe Mullinax. I have a feeling you're going to side with Damichael because it is Locked On Grizzlies here.
And I knew that. I didn't want that to be the case.
You a homer like old Damichael over here, or are you a fair analyst of basketball?
I'll put it like this:
on the
Spurs,
Joe Mullinax. All right,
the Spurs aren't the team to be worried about. There's another team that we hadn't talked about that could really put it on the Grizzlies. But we'll get there because I'm sounding like a homer right now. That ain't the team that I'm worried about. It's another one that's scarier to me.
And that is a wonderful segue into our next segment. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we will continue this conversation. Who are the Grizzlies actually better than in the Southwest Division? We'll talk about that next here on the podcast. Stick around on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, and even a bigger group invite to come along. Gametime makes it possible, and they make buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. There are seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you will be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, buddy. So we both have Houston number 1 in the Southwest Division as of this recording. We have a difference in number 2. You have the Memphis Grizzlies being the massive homer that everybody knows that you are. And I, being the journalist with integrity, as everybody knows I am, clearly.
Right.
The everydayers are well aware. If there's somebody that's rational on this podcast, it's me.
It's Joe Morant.
I've got I couldn't even finish that with a straight face. We've got the Spurs, or I've got the Spurs at number 2. That means I've got the Grizzlies at number 3. And this might be another space where you and I diverge a little bit, because I do not fear the Dallas Mavericks without Kyrie Irving. I want to stress that. I don't fear them. I think that they are extremely dependent on what Kyrie in particular brings to the table. Now, does that mean that they won't be competitive against the Grizzlies? No. And there's obviously a decent chance, coming back from a torn ACL when he suffered the injury. I believe that was the injury, a torn ACL. There's a decent chance that Kyrie could play the second half of the season, a decent chunk of basketball. That's a different conversation, like our top 100 rankings that we're doing for Locked On NBA. Like that's different. Kyrie comes back. I think Dallas is a major threat to the Grizzlies in this division, in this conference. I think Kyrie, Dallas, despite themselves, thanks in part to the number 1 overall pick, Cooper Flagg, they are in a position to really accentuate the things that Kyrie does great and limit the things that he doesn't do so well. So this is a current ranking. I've got the Grizzlies in front of Dallas, but I have a sneaky suspicion you maybe have that flipped, or at least in terms of Dallas being higher than I've got them.
Yeah, look, I have the Grizzlies technically, like again, going back to what I said originally, if we're talking about who's going to have a better regular season record, I think it's going to be the Memphis Grizzlies. If we're talking about if these teams matched up in the playoffs, who's going to win with the added factors what you just said, Kyrie Irving potentially being available and all that, I don't really think the Grizzlies have a chance against the Mavs as constructed. And to get to the point of, talking about the regular season and things like that, like I say this a lot too. There's another thing that we talk about. When we talk about the Western Conference, I said so much of it is matchups. It's not kind of a direct correlation to, this team is better than this team, so that means that team's better than that. It's not a transitive property. There we go. There it is. This ain't math. This is real life. This is real NBA basketball. So just because, the Grizzlies can beat up on the Spurs and the Spurs may beat the Mavs doesn't mean the Mavs can't beat the Grizzlies, so to speak. Now, what gives me the problems when it comes to the Mavs, because everything that the Grizzlies have kind of struggled with in the past is what this Mavs team should be good at. They have all this size and length. It's going to make it very difficult for Ja Morant. It's going to make it very difficult for Jaren Jackson Jr. They have the ability to put Anthony Davis at the 4. We saw that in the playoffs against the Lakers when LeBron James started off the series guarding Jaren Jackson Jr. He had a field day. Jaren had a field day. They switched it up, put Anthony Davis on him. Jaren didn't have another big game like that the rest of the series. So they have the ability to start out Anthony Davis on Jaren Jackson Jr., and then they have these other options. They have the Derek Lively. They have, the Daniel Gaffords. They have Cooper Flagg, who they can move down to the 4. We haven't talked about that much. I just think they're going to be very good defensively. And going into the season, the Grizzlies are going to have the same question. It's going to be a lot of pick and roll. It's going to be a lot of Ja Morant. And when we talk about the history of this team in the playoffs, the problem has been to when you get in those late game situations and you're dependent on these guys, there has been an inability to score. And the Mavs, I think the Mavs could be the best defense in the NBA, right? Better than OKC. They have that potential.
Wow.
You don't think
better
they have
than
that?
OKC?
You don't think they have that potential? Klay Thompson. Oh, yeah, better than Houston.
The ghost of Klay Thompson?
At the 2.
The ghost of Klay Thompson?
Oh, now it's the ghost. He's going to compete.
In this economy, we're talking about Klay Thompson as an elite defender?
I didn't. No. I never said the words elite.
2025?
He's no
Klay
cone.
Thompson's a major defensive force?
He's going to look like it when he's playing beside Cooper Flagg at the 3.
Wow.
He's going to have Anthony Davis at the 4, and he's going to have Derek Lively at the 5.
Wow.
He's not. You've
been hanging out with Nick Angstad.
Klay Thompson ain't some pushover defensively. Now he can't move laterally the same way, but you ain't just.
That's an important part of defense, partner.
He's not moving the same. But guess what? It's an important part. But when you're 6'7" and you have the ability to close out, which he does, it'll be all right. Now, early in the season, a lot of their trajectory or their ceiling will depend on a guy like D'Angelo Russell. But as we know, over the course of years, he's been a very inconsistent player. He's had times like, a couple seasons with the Brooklyn Nets where he looks amazing. He's had times like the last couple years with the Lakers where he doesn't look amazing. So he's the trajectory, right? He's the ceiling. A lot of what this team looks like first half of the season, all that will depend on him. But I say all that to say, I think any given day, that team can beat anyone because defensively, they're going to swarm you with the size, with the defensive versatility that they have. They're going to struggle to score at times. They're going to struggle to shoot sometimes. But when those shots fall, when Anthony Davis is having one of those 35 and 15 type nights, Cooper Flagg knocks down a couple shots, get it going. They can be dangerous because of what they can do on the defensive end. And again, going back to what we talked about, like the Spurs don't strike me as the most physical team out there. Dallas, they're right up there with Houston, with OKC, with Timberwolves, those type of teams defensively. I don't know why you're looking at me like that, Joe. Like, they don't have Klay Thompson, Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, Derek Lively across the board. That is a lot of size. That is a lot of switchability because Anthony Davis don't mind going out there on the perimeter. Derek Lively doesn't mind going out there on the perimeter. Cooper Flagg doesn't mind going out there on the perimeter or downsizing and guarding a big. There isn't another team. Maybe OKC. OKC is probably the only one. There just isn't another team where you can say switch everything, have fun. We got size across the board.
Klay Thompson is 35 years old right now. Like right now, he's 35 years old. That's pretty old in NBA years. If he wasn't mildly washed, he would still be on the Golden State Warriors roster. Golden State was okay with Klay.
You know who they missed? They missed last season? They missed Klay. They couldn't find a starting shooting guard the whole season, right? You saw it. He started like 50.
They definitely thought my boy AirPods would be better than he was. I'll give him that.
That didn't work out.
So it did not, at least not yet. Hit us up on X at Damichael C at Joe Mullinax. Let us know in the comments. We're not going to talk much about the New Orleans Pelicans. No offense. It's very broken there, and it would just make us sad. I think that the Pelicans are pretty clearly the worst team, but they but Zion, Zion obviously, if he's healthy, could
they can be a factor
up a little bit. Yeah. Yes,
DeJounte Murray when they get him back. Yeah,
just a lot of ifs, even more ifs than the Grizzlies have, to be honest with you.
For sure.
When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, moving on from our rankings of the Southwest Division, heading into Ja Morant's newest Nike commercial. Creeped me out a little bit, but that's probably a good thing. It's a commercial I'm going to remember, and that's what I'm sure Nike was going for. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Stick around. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time that you had an urgent need, a plumber, a service provider. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? No, you didn't wait for a call back. You moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone. They're the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. OpenPhone allows for you to message or manage business calls and texts from a single app. And they have an AI agent that handles after-hours calls, answering common questions and capturing leads so that you never miss a customer. OpenPhone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. So, Damichael, you are much cooler than me. Anybody that has watched, whether it's just this episode or listened to this episode.
Being cool is subjective, Joe. Being cool is subjective.
No. We can do a quick straw poll in the comments.
No, you don't need to do that.
And I'll just post a poll on X and it'll confirm. You're cooler than I am, and that's fine.
Social media isn't a real place. No.
It is not a real place. Lots of things have confirmed that over the last several years, but I digress. Ja Morant's new commercial. Okay, Now I watched this commercial. I reposted it. Like a lot of folks, make them watch. That's the whole point. That's the whole theme. That's what they're going for with the international tour that he just, I think it's finished up now.
Yeah, he's done.
All right. So all that, it all is interconnected and intertwined. And it's the creepy, bulgy eyes, right? Like people are watching, their eyes are like darting around. They're bulging out of their heads. And
must see.
Must see. And I compared it. probably too aggressively, but it was similar to me like the old 1980s Michael Jordan with Spike Lee. It must be the shoes, right? The Air Jordan kicks. And again, I'm not saying that Ja's Jordan or that this is going to be that iconic. The similarity is in that it makes me remember it, right? Like I remember the ad because of the creativity invested in it. There's sentimental ads that Nike does sometimes. They did that with a Ja shoe release, if I remember correctly. It might have been the first one. That was a little more like his upbringing and where he came from and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But you know, the stuff like this, again, Nike is a business. Nike is trying to make money, and they continue to invest both time and treasure in Ja Morant. So as much fun as our colleagues at Locked On NBA are going to have putting Ja Morant outside of the top 20, which is going to give me a conniption fit when it happens, as much as people are trying to make Ja as the future of the NBA seemingly not a thing, arguably the most powerful engine, non-television related, in basketball, very clearly sees Ja Morant as this kind of guy. It's just further evidence that the future still may be Ja's for the taking.
Man, yeah, Ja ain't went anywhere. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we talk about it. Like you know, his perception changed, I guess, so to speak, over the course of time. And, you know, there's a whole process to that, how you're viewed nationally or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, the jersey sales haven't changed. The way he attracts an audience has not changed. I traveled to those games. I remember after the incidents happened and everything when he got back, when we were in New Orleans, that first game back, there was a bunch of kids lined up, waiting. This is his first game back after a 25-game suspension. Lined up right there in the breezeway, waiting, with their markers, jerseys, T-shirts, all of that. And we were just looking like, man, the kids are very forgiving, so to speak. The people are very forgiving. And quite frankly, it wasn't as big of a, you know, whatever you want to call it, a black hole or a mark on his career as it was being put out at the time. And Nike has fully backed him since. And again, when you want to get into the numbers, the Ja 3 just released on yesterday on the sneakers app, sold out in less than an hour. Every size. And Nike's got a lot of sizes. I mean, we're talking about the kids all the way up to men's, I think like 17, something like that. But sold out all the sizes. So, I mean, look, that goes to show how he's viewed, but also the Ja 3, I really like the model and the creativity that they put into that shoe and kind of distinguishing it as a different shoe than the first Ja 1, Ja 2, and really the low-cut model that has become like preferred with many of the shoes, whether it's the LeBron 20, the Kobe 6s, all these recent shoes. Well, Kobe 6s and Kobe 8s aren't recent, but they all have these low-top models that have become kind of the preferred model. And Ja's shoe is got a little different flavor to it. And I guess you could say they took a little bit of a risk there. And so far, it feels good. But yeah, the ad to make them watch, you know, it's kind of with the point that he's been one of the most watched players in the NBA. He's making them watch. And that was what the tour was about. And yeah, you're right, Joe. They are kind of putting a lot of, you know, Ja is a big time investment for Nike. And that's been the case since, you know, he got his first shoe. They branded him as Nike's first Gen Z signature sneaker athlete, you know, and that's kind of the way that they treated him going forward since then.
I think that the biggest thing for me, you know, watching it from afar, and it's not just a Memphis thing. I say that often on this show. I see it in Virginia. I see kids wearing Ja Morant jerseys. I see people wearing the shoes at my job. I see the commercials. I see all of these things on an on a national scale. We've seen it internationally now with Ja on the shoe tour. I'm sure it won't be the last one because it was very clearly a success. I just continue to struggle with, and you mentioned that the internet's not a real place, or at least social media is not a real place. I think that a lot of the uproar over all of this came from that place. And I'm sure, again, we talk about money. Nike has all the money in the world to do all sorts of research into how this actually impacts the market, how it could hurt them. If Nike thought that Ja Morant was going to hurt business, he would no longer be a part of the Nike family. They have reached a different conclusion. And I think that now it's up to Ja to go out there and reinforce his place as one of the NBA's very best players. Clearly, Nike is betting that he's going to do just that. And that is going to be a fascinating thing to watch over the days, weeks, and months to come. Thank you so much for being with us on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Hilariously enough, the joke is on me. I made fun of Damichael earlier in the show for doubling up as a golf reporter over the next few days, but that means that I'll be covering solo, understandably so, because Damichael's very busy over the next few days. Lots of different angles we can take, trying to be respectful of our audience, Damichael, and the dog days here. Lots of different things we can talk about. You and I both have to submit our top 100s for Locked On NBA over the next couple of days. I'm probably going to talk about that process a little bit, where I put Ja, where I put Jaren.
Yeah,
it's been a fun exercise that I'm excited to talk to everybody about. And, maybe between now and the next episode, you can shoot me some of your thoughts as well.
Yeah. I'll make sure I do that for sure.
Yeah, so top 100 talk and more coming up on our next episode of Locked On Grizzlies. The actual voting going down as we speak among Locked On NBA voters. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing wherever you get podcasts. We're proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube, all those fun places. Make sure you're an everydayer at this point, checking us out every time an episode drops. Again, we're in August now, 3 to 4 episodes a week with Damichael doing the golf tournament. It's going to be 3. You'll get one more episode from us this week, probably closer to Friday, but it might be a little earlier. Just every time an episode drops, we truly mean that in the month of August. Make sure you're hanging out with us here on Locked On Grizzlies. And thank you for making Locked On Grizzlies your first listen today. Now for your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast, where there is no offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Damichael, I am Joe. Thank you so much for being with us on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. I will catch you on our next edition. Damichael will catch you next week. Until then, stay locked in wherever you get podcasts. We are free and available. Thanks for being with us on this one. We'll catch you next time. See ya.